Journalism is one of the creative industries. However, discovering and examining the information sources needed to write stories takes time, something that journalists increasingly lack as news organizations reduce staff numbers. Therefore, INJECT was designed to augment the creative capabilities of journalists to discover and examine information sources more quickly. Join us as we meet with Professor Neil Maiden from Venice to talk about INJECT, a new digital tool that can change the way journalists work in the 21st century.
INJECT is an interactive digital tool that supports journalists to think creatively about the angles and content of stories that they are writing, and to develop new stories more quickly. It is a plug-in to existing text editors such as Google Docs and WordPress that journalists use when developing stories. INJECT's development was based on scientific information. It was informed by established theories of creativity, and its implementation exploited existing approaches to computational natural language processing and information retrieval. The theories of creativity were used to generate algorithms to undertake different forms of creative search. We interviewed experienced journalists about their strategies for discovering novel angles on stories. In the current tool, 6 creative search strategies are coded. These support the discovery of angles based on data and evidence, the human angle, the background to the story, future ramifications, humorous angles, and data and information visualizations. INJECT works by automatically reading, making sense of, and indexing news stories published using RSS feeds from over 400 titles in 6 European languages.
Professor Maiden explains how to use INJECT to show us the power of the tool.
So we're writing about the impact of sea levels on the future of Venice in a WordPress article. We can see the INJECT sidebar here on the right. We've chosen topics like Venice and sea level, and you can see the different creative search strategies and algorithms. The tool has already retrieved different stories published about Venice and flooding. You can see it's also extracted entities such as lagoon to highlight that could be an angle for the story. And the user is able to scroll up and down the sidebar exploring different stories and angles based on entities.
INJECT has also been implemented as a plugin to commercial content management systems used in newsrooms across Europe.
Fortunately, the EU and the Google News Initiative agreed and funded different phases of the project. INJECT was used by 10 journalists daily over a period of 2 months in 3 regional newspapers in Norway. The journalists tended to use the tool to write more complex stories. At the end of the 2 months, the stories written with INJECT support were compared with stories written in an earlier period by the same journalists without INJECT support. Analysis of these ratings revealed that INJECT use was associated with stories that were significantly more novel. All forms of content creators can benefit from INJECT. Very little is needed to use INJECT. A journalist can either download and install the plugin in their favourite text editor, or simply use the INJECT web application. We are launching a startup business called Ject.ai to sell INJECT to news organisations. But we are planning for INJECT to be priced very competitively for independent and freelance journalists.
Find out more in Digital Creativity Support for Original Journalism, a contributed article in the August 2020 communications of the ACM.